Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my F123 MyTeam career mode. If you did miss the last episode at Monaco, it was a very good episode. We got our first win of the season, and as we now look towards the R&D so far this season, you can see there nothing's really changed from last episode with Red Bull and Ferrari being at the top. Mercedes have made a little bit of an inroad back towards Ferrari, but I guess the big difference is McLaren has now jumped a little bit clear of that the pack, which has pretty much every other team. Now we've fallen off a little bit, just slightly, as we haven't been able to get any more upgrades in as we now head to practice, and it's going to be a wet practice session here, so it'll be interesting how our performance goes here, because in Imola during the wet we weren't too good, but in the Monaco we got pole position in the wet. So it'll be interesting to see what our wet weather pace is like around Spain as we now go straight to our first practice program. And it's only lap 3. We are a little bit down as I did make a small error in the middle section of the track, but coming around these last few corners we're actually going to get a really good run here and go into the green on our delta, so this should get us the purple result in the program. And we are also currently sitting P1 ahead of the two Aston Martins, but now heading along to the next one, which is our energy usage, so the ERS deployment. As you can see, we're using it a little bit on those straights, but everywhere else we're not really using it, and we don't need to use it as we're nearly 2 seconds up on the delta. And then that lap also puts us on second place overall so far this practice session. And now onto our qualifying program. We're usually not too good in the qualifying programs, don't usually have the 1 lap pace, but looking at that graph, looks like we're doing pretty good, and that result puts us P2. But because the session did end up drying up, we do fall back a little bit, and Iwasa took advantage of that dry running, which put him P4 in the session. Oscar Piastri ended up topping the session as well, so it's a very mixed standings there, with Sargent also on P2 as we now head into qualifying, which will be our first dry running so far this weekend, as we actually didn't end up doing like the full practice session. So I jumped out the practice session before it dried up, so never got a chance to do any sort of dry running. So first dry running will be qualifying, and onto the back of our first flying lap. We're currently sitting P15, just behind Logan Sargent, but crossing the line we'll go P6, not too bad, and that's kind of about where we wanted to be. That will be our only fast lap, as that was actually good enough for us to make it to Q2. As you can see, that we ended up dropping down the P12, but crucially inside that top 16 to keep us into the next session, and Iwasa ended up finishing plumb last, so not very good on Iwasa's side of things now as we go to the end of our first flying lap in Q2, and that lap will put us P3, only 4/10 off Lando Norris, who currently has provisional fastest lap time in Q2. And now we've done a cool down lap, and this is our second flying lap, and we get onto the curb a little bit through turn 3, and that's actually going to flick the car out around, and I was really worried there. I thought the Ferrari that was just passing us was about to actually hit us, because we pretty much had our rear end sticking out just onto the circuit, so I was a little bit worried about that. Now we're going to make a big mistake coming out of the last corner, and that's just going to throw us into the wall on the other side, and that has ended our session very prematurely. I was really hoping to try and get a good lap in there to try and make sure that we can make it into Q3, but it's not to be, and that will be another retirement so far this season. Don't think we've had any retirements actually in the race. As we now look at a replay, I'll just get too far onto the AstroTurf on the exit, which flicks us to one side of the wall and to the other side of the wall, and that looks like a very hard impact. And now riding on board to have a look at what happened. Yeah, just ran a bit wide and unsettled the car, and I did try to save it, but in the end just overcorrected and flicked it to the wall on the other side. So we'll finish that session in P12, and we'll 3/10 up on that lap. So if you take off the 3/10 that I have ended up losing there, I probably would have knocked out Oscar Piastri and made it into Q3, so a little bit disappointing. That was a bit of a missed opportunity. So now all we can do is just try and race our way back through the field and try and get some points.
Do you remember Max Verstappen's first win on debut for Red Bull here in 2016? 2 years before, we had the dramatic coming together of Hamilton and Rosberg going towards turn 4. There's always a treat in store as we head back to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's an updated track at Catalunya, and we welcome the removal of the chicane in the final sector, shortening lap times and reducing the total running to 2.9 miles and 14 turns. This was actually the original setup for the track, but it hasn't been used since 2007. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, Perez, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Bottas, Ocon, the Rainmaster, Stroll, Gasly, Joe, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Sonoda, Albon, Sargent, De Vries, and Ayumu Iwasa. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham. Now, can I get your take on Max Verstappen? That was a great win in the last race, but can they keep that momentum going into this weekend?
Well, there are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out will have boosted their confidence coming into this race.
Here we are on the grid now. It's time to do some setup changes to try and see if we can't boost our way. Because we are starting a bit further back than when I thought, and I reckon we do have a little bit of pace to offer, so we're actually going to start on the soft tyre and go for the hard tyre towards the end, as I reckon the hard tyre will end up being faster for us personally, even though it says that the overall race time will actually probably be about 4/10 slower. So I feel like between the medium and hard, according to the game, there's really not much of a time difference. So going for the hard, I reckon we can actually make up more time than being on the mediums. The mediums will require a bit more tyre conserving, so I reckon going for that will probably be better for us in the long run. And for our warm-up lap here, it's just all about trying to get these soft tyres into a window. It's going to be nice and important that we do try and get them nice and toasty. Hopefully somewhere around about the 90s, I usually find is a good spot for the try and get the optimum launch out of the pit boxes. So we're not going to quite get them to the 90 degrees, but we get them pretty close at 89 degrees on the rear. So we're not too far off, as we get a pretty good pit box starting spot. So 5 lights and we're away in the Spanish Grand Prix. We get a pretty good launch. We're going to get by Esteban Ocon and Piastri and Bottas. Bottas squeezed us a tiny little bit onto the grass. But now we've got a heap of open space for us to try and lunge and move up the inside. We're going to try and look to go on the inside of Lando Norris, and this is for 8th position already, so already inside the points. But Lando's going to give us a little bit of a squeeze on the exit there as we now look, and it is Max Verstappen who's leading the way so far in this Grand Prix. And in the background there you can see we're actually defending now from Oscar Piastri, so we're currently in a McLaren sandwich and getting attacked by the fellow Australian of Piastri, as we're now going to send it down the inside of Lando Norris, try and make up as many positions as we can while we're on these soft tyres, and everyone else is trying to get their mediums up to temperature a little bit still. And looking ahead now to the end of the first lap, and it is Verstappen who leads from Leclerc and Russell, but Verstappen crucially hasn't really gapped the field at all very much. And now back to our POV, we've currently got a half a second gap to Alonso in front of us, so we're going to be trying to bridge that gap. And now fast forwarding to the end of lap 3, we're going to do a quick order check here. Verstappen from Leclerc and Russell, that's your top 3 at the moment. Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, Alonso, then ourselves in P8. Norris and Piastri are currently 9th and 10th, so 2 McLarens inside the top 10 at the moment of Bottas, Ocon, Stroll. But it's actually Ocon and Bottas are currently battling, and Piastri must have made a mistake, maybe locking it up into turn 1, because he's now lost out to the Frenchman of Esteban Ocon. So it's Stroll P13, Hulkenberg 14th, Joe, Gasly, Albon, Sonoda, Magnussen. Our teammate Iwasa has actually made up a couple of positions. Remember, he started plumb last. Logan Sargent 21st and Nick De Vries, and rounds out the back of the field. And it's a little 3-car train there between our teammate, the Williams, and the other AlphaTauri. So now, looking onto the lap 4, DRS has been activated, and Charles Leclerc wants to get by Max Verstappen as soon as possible, and he will try to go along the inside. But it looks like Verstappen's actually going to keep the spot here, but Leclerc keeps his nose there, so Leclerc's now got the inside for turn 3, so this should very well be, hopefully, job done, because then it will give him the inside for turn 4 as well. But Verstappen's not going to let this one go very easily, as he maintains his position around the outside, so that means now Verstappen will, of course, get the inside line for turn 5, so this is really, they're spending the entire first sector side by side here, and they're going to continue going side by side now through the quick left-right of 7 and 8, so this could be really holding them up, and you can see there now, we're gaining massively on Fernando Alonso, as Alonso's now caught up from to the back of the train, so, this is all just bunching up this first bit of the field, and now it's actually Russell who's attacking Max Verstappen. He's going to go around the outside of Charles Leclerc as well, so Russell could very well jump himself up from 3rd to 1st, and he does. Russell's now taking the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix on lap 4, and that was a brilliant double overtake on Leclerc and Verstappen to get that move done. And this is our POV at the moment. As you can see, we've currently closed up quite massively on Fernando Alonso, and we're going to be trying to bridge that gap once again, but we've got a bit of a bigger issue on our hand because Norris is only half a second behind us, so he's probably going to be more of a threat to us. As now Sainz and Perez are battling it out going down the main straight. This has really become a DRS battle, so it looks like it's nearly 3 wide for the lead ahead of them. And so it is Charles Leclerc who's actually going to get by George Russell there, and he's on the inside now, but Perez has to settle for behind Carlos Sainz at the moment. So this is actually a really good battle that's forming in front of us. And for a second there, I thought it was going to be 4 wide going into turn 4, but in the end, they all backed out of it very smartly. As you can see, they were now very much on the back of this train, so we're going to send a lunge down onto Fernando Alonso, try and make up as many positions as we can while they're all bunched up together. So now our next target will be Lewis Hamilton, and try and make up as many moves as we can on these soft tyres. And moving forward once more, again, it is Hamilton getting past Perez at the moment, and these two going side by side, it's going to heavily hold them up. So now we're going to be trying to get ourselves by here at the same time, but we're going to have a massive... We nearly spun it there, actually. We didn't get onto the curb, but maybe this is just the tyre wear starting to kick in on lap 6 already. So these soft tyres must be starting to wear out much quicker than I was expecting. So Lando Norris is actually going to be trying to get by us here, and he does get by us, but we're going to immediately try and see if we can't get by the inside of him again, but we're going to think better of it. Instead, Fernando Alonso tries to attack us around the outside, so we've ended up having to defend from Alonso, trying to not lose more than one position here. So all of that hard work's just been undone, so now we have to try and get by Lando Norris once again. But it is now Oscar Piastri getting by the Frenchman of Ocon to get back himself back into the points. He was in the points, remember, by the end of lap 1, but he's dropped back a little bit since, so it's good to see him getting back into the points and making 2 Australians inside the top 10 at the minute. And now exiting turn 3, we're going to be under threat here from Fernando Alonso on those medium tyres. He's going to be getting the better exit speed here, as we're now having to lift off a little bit going through turn 3, which is usually sometimes flat out, especially during qualifying. So now we're heavily defending from the Spaniard and having to go super defensive, which actually now allows Piastri to go up the inside of Fernando as his exit was compromised. So it's amazing how quickly things change, as we were, remember, battling to try and get by Lewis Hamilton, who was in 5th place, and we're now trying to make sure that we're not going to lose 8th position. So now, looking forward, Norris and Perez are going to be battling it out very heavily here. It looks like they're actually going to be making a bit of slight contact there. Maybe Perez locked up while Lando Norris was around the outside. So that's held up the both of them. So we might be able to take both positions here. But we're going to have to play our cards very smartly here. We can't go for any gap that's not quite a gap yet, as we gain so much. And we're actually lifting off through this, from what is meant to be a flat-out corner, and then try and get a good run. But Perez is just so slow through there, so I wonder if maybe he's got a slight bit of damage there from that contact, which is going to be slowing him up. So now he's going to be trying to get by Lando Norris once again, and we're just going to sweep around the outside of both of them and get both positions done. So now we can try and focus on getting back up to the back of Carlos Sainz. But you can just see how much pace Sergio Perez has lost through that contact. We've already gapped more than a second over Sergio Perez, as now Max Verstappen's making a move on Charles Leclerc here for 2nd place. But Russell is extending his lead as these two battle it out, and now back to our POV here, where we're going to be running a little bit wide here, and we're going to be losing more and more pace to Carlos Sainz at the moment. But just have a look at the size of this train that's behind Sergio Perez. It's essentially P7 all the way down to P19 is currently stuck behind the Red Bull. So this is nearly the entire field is stuck behind Sergio Perez. So Perez, I don't think he's actually really trying to defend. It's just a case of the Red Bull's very strong in a straight line. So they can't really do anything against him, even with the power of DRS. And now Leclerc gets back by Max Verstappen. So this is really just similar all over again, except that's not for the race win. And once again, moving forward, now Max Verstappen's going to be trying to get by Charles Leclerc. But this game of DRS that they playing at the moment is actually helping them, because they are slowly closing in the gap on George Russell, as I would imagine they're not really battling each other through the middle part of the lap. So they're just really just pushing each other down the main straight and trying to get those places back up. And as you can see now here, our tyre wear is starting to get pretty bad. It's about 60% all the way around. The left fronts have really copped a bad beating, nearly at 70%. So we're actually going to pull in now. It's a little bit earlier than I was expecting. I was hoping to get 1 or 2 more laps out of these soft tyres, but we're going to have to wave the white flag here and go for the hard tyres, which will mean we'll have to do a little bit of tyre conserving now on these hard tyres, because I was hoping to try and make it not a full-on sprint to finish on the hard tyres, but still have pretty decent pace. So now we're just going to have to play a bit more conservatively on this stint now that we have to add on a few more laps to this. So hopefully the last thing that we need at the moment is any sort of safety car, because us boxing this early is really just going to and mean that the chance of a safety car is going to mess things up. As Charles Leclerc, he runs very wide into turn 1 here. He must have locked it up while battling Max Verstappen, so he's lost out to Max Verstappen, and Lewis Hamilton nearly got rear-ended by his teammate Carlos Sainz, and Leclerc must have actually really hurt that tyre as he now pulls into the pits probably a little bit earlier than he was expecting to as well. So it looks like Tyre is going to be playing a massive issue at the moment, and briefly a green flag pops up, so there must have been an incident a little bit further back in the first sector. So we're just going to focus on here as the safety car is deployed. So this is not going to be playing very well for us at the moment, as we've already made our pit stop. So now everyone else in front of us will probably get a free pit stop, especially all the soft tyre runners, and I would imagine some of the medium tyre runners as well will want to be coming in for a set of hard tyres. And it looks like it was Albon who went for a spin at turn 4, and as he was reversing to try and get off, he just reversed into the path of our teammate Iwasa. Iwasa really, when it looked like he was already committed to the one line, and then got greeted by a reversing Williams. So just a bit of a clumsy incident, but there was enough front wing debris there to bring out the full course yellow. So it's Russell leading from Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Alonso, Piastri, and as you can see there, we've lost out to Alonso and Hamilton and Piastri thanks to this safety car and us already pitting. So we've got a bit of work to do. Perez, Bottas round out the top 10. Hulkenberg P11, Gasly. Norris has actually dropped quite a bit during this sequence of pit stops as well, so I wonder if there was maybe a hold up in the pits at some point. Ocon, Sargent. Sargent's doing really well up in 15th. Zhou, Stroll, Sonoda, Magnussen, De Vries, and then our teammate Iwasa and Alex Albon are also really trying to catch up at the moment, as they probably would have had a longer pit stop to replace front wings, but also was slow on their in lap because they had the no front downforce as well. So now the safety car's in at the end of this lap, so we're just trying to get ourselves set to go. And as you can see there, we actually got our tyres nice and toasty, probably a little bit too hot for the hard tyres, but we're going to be trying to make a move on Oscar Piastri. We're going to deploy a heap of ERS to try and improve ourselves forward. And Piastri actually moved slightly over right at the last second, which kind of made us have to do quite the swerve under the brakes, which has compromised us slightly. As you can see there, Alonso's managed to move up quite a bit, riding on board with George Russell. I reckon he's locked up a little bit there. The camera started shaking quite violently, and that's allowed Max Verstappen to go through. So I would say George Russell's made a mistake there going into turn 10 and locked up, which has allowed Verstappen to go through. But now DRS is already on the cards. George Russell's just going to go straight by Max Verstappen. It looks like Charles Leclerc is also going to try and take advantage of this as well by going around the outside of turn 1, but that's going to give Max Verstappen the inside for turn 3. So it looks like Max Verstappen will keep P2 at the minute, but George Russell's already gapped a second gap over Max Verstappen. As now we'll be looking to try and make a move here on Fernando Alonso. We've got a good run. He's gone defensive to the inside, but we're going to go even further to the inside to make the move stick. And so now we're going to be trying to get by Lewis Hamilton, and we were trying to get by him very early on in our soft tyre stance. Now Max Verstappen goes by George Russell, so he must have lost a little bit of time during the middle section of the lap to Max Verstappen to get himself back within the DRS range. And now we're under attack once again from Fernando Alonso. So Alonso's not letting us get away with this P6. We cover him off just slightly to try and tighten up his line going into turn 4 at the moment. And it's not quite enough, and he's going to keep it around the outside of us. So now we're going to just have to try and make sure we give him a squeeze on the exit. And we do just that, and that's allowed Sergio Perez to get up the inside of Alonso as well. So they must have fixed whatever damage he had during the pit stop from that contact with Lando Norris early on in the race. And he's still going to go side by side with Fernando Alonso, but Alonso in the end is going to keep the position. Now Piastri's looking like he wants to get by Sergio Perez as well. So it looks like Perez might not quite have the pace just yet, but it definitely looks much better than it was before. Heading onto the main straight now, we're definitely going to be under attack here from Fernando Alonso. We're not going to be using too much ERS, as we want to try and save some for later on into the lap to try and see if we can't make a move or even use it down the main straight for the next lap. So we're going to concede the spot to Fernando Alonso here. And now looking back behind us, both Perez and Piastri have got DRS, so they're going to go either side of us. And so now we're just going to have to try and not cause any contact here. So we're going to park it up nice and behind Piastri to try and see if we can't get a run on Perez. But Perez is going to send it down the inside of Piastri, so that was a move I wasn't expecting. Piastri has a little bit of a wobble on the exit, so we get by Piastri. So now we have to try and get by Sergio Perez as well. But Sergio Perez is going to be pretty hard to pass at the moment, as it looks like he's definitely got the pace again in that Red Bull. So I'm going to be hoping to try and just stay within his DRS. And now there's a yellow flag ahead of us, and there's a green dot on the mini-map. It looks like it's Fernando Alonso's going slow, and there's smoke coming out the back of his car. So I reckon Fernando Alonso's had an engine failure there. So that's going to be a free position for us. And so all of that hard work Alonso's just starting to get by us has all just been undone by an engine failure. And that is a lot of smoke coming out the back of that Aston Martin using the Mercedes power unit. So I'm sure Mercedes are going to be keeping a keen eye on that, as they've got 2 cars inside the top 5 at the moment. So that's not a good sign for them at the moment, as now Max Verstappen's under attack from George Russell in one of those Mercedes I just spoke about, and he's gone for the lead now. And only on to the next lap now. It's Max Verstappen going to get by George Russell once again. So this is really just Imola all over again. But Verstappen versus Russell, Verstappen makes that look very easy. Heading into turn 1 there. So now as we look a little bit further down the field now, it is going to be Ocon. And he's really slow at the moment. So I wonder if Ocon's now got some sort of engine problem, as he's going to start coming to a slow stop here on the side of the circuit at turn 2. But back to the front. It's the final lap. And Max Verstappen is rounding the final corner, and the first 3 cars in the queue are all within DRS of each other, but it's going to be Verstappen who crosses the line to win the Spanish Grand Prix. And now back to our POV. We never managed to get anywhere close to Lewis Hamilton, but we did manage to defend from Sergio Perez in the end, getting by the Mexican during the race as well. So in the end, making it the P6, good recovery drive from P12, made up a few positions. So we can't be disappointed with that, getting another points finish during this season to try and help ourselves maximise our position in the Constructors. And then we did also get Driver of the Day, which is an added bonus.
To take the win for Red Bull today. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
And now looking at the race results, it was Verstappen, Russell and Sainz our podium. Charles Leclerc narrowly missing out on the podium as well. He was about 3 seconds back off his teammate Hamilton, ourselves in P6. Sergio Perez, Gasly and Piastri finally gets a points-paying position in P9. And then Valtteri Bottas rounds out the top 10. And now looking at the driver standings, Max Verstappen will extend his championship lead to 41 points. Remember, that was only about 10 points separating the top 3 only a few rounds ago. We now find ourselves in P8. We're only 6 points behind Fernando Alonso, but crucially we're also 12 points ahead of Lando Norris in this championship. And now in the Constructors' Championship, it is Red Bull, and they've got a 63-point lead over Ferrari, and then it's Mercedes and another 59 points back from that. And then Brabham find ourselves in P5 at the moment, and we're only 15 points off Aston Martin, and we're crucially 10 points ahead of McLaren. So that's really where our battle is. And now we're back in the HQ, and we've actually selected all of our possible activities, but this is a bit of a shock announcement. Fernando Alonso, after his shocking race in Spain, is actually retiring from the sport. So we're going to do an upgrade here for the powertrain. And just thinking about the Fernando Alonso retirement, that's going to spice up the driver market a little bit, as now we have to figure out who's going to fill in that second Aston Martin seat. As we go to our marketing department event, and it looks like our teammate Awasa has actually had a bit of a stitch up here. The power of social media has struck once again, and it looks like a clip has emerged of Awasa speaking about something with zero context. So this is not creating such a good look for the team at the moment. So we're just going to ignore it at the moment. We'll try, as most things do on social media, they'll blow by. So we're just going to leave it for the moment and continue advancing in our calendar to see what does eventuate of this stitch up for Awasa. And heading now, it looks like we've got our result for the event, and it's gone bad. It's gone very bad. Okay, lesson learned. Do not let it just blow over. It's not going to blow over. So that is all for this episode. If you did indeed enjoy this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe, and the next episode will be at Austria, the Red Bull Ring. I'll see you there. Bye.